All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something you probably never even think twice about. Your bank account, right? We put our money in there, we trust it's safe, it's our money. But what if I told you that fundamental belief is actually legally wrong? Let's dive in.
Okay, so before we get into the weeds, let's just set the stage. What does it actually mean to own something? Well, the legal definition of property is pretty straightforward. It's the right to enjoy and get rid of something, completely and exclusively. It's yours, period. You are in control. And that word, control, that's the absolute key to this whole thing.
Think about it. You own your car, right? You own your house, your phone. You have total exclusive control. But what about the money sitting in your bank account? Do you really own it in the same way? The answer, well, it's probably not what you're expecting, and honestly, the implications are huge.
So to figure this out, we need to talk about the one thing we all want from our bank: security. I mean, that's the whole point, right? We put our money there because we think it's secure. But what does secure actually mean when you look at the fine print?
We all get what security feels like. It's that feeling of being safe, no danger, no risk. It's that little sigh of relief when you check your bank app and see the balance is there. But here's the million-dollar question. Is that feeling of safety the same thing as the cold, hard, legal reality?
And that brings us right to the heart of it, the big question. When you deposit your money into the bank, who actually owns it?
Now look, this isn't some conspiracy theory or a matter of opinion. The answer is written, clear as day, in the law. We're going to use a specific example here from Italy's Civil Code, Article 1834. And you might be thinking, why Italy? Well, because this principle, it's not just an Italian thing. It's basically the blueprint for modern banking everywhere. It's the bedrock of the entire system.
And there it is. Bam, in black and white. The bank acquires ownership of it. Let that sink in. The moment you deposit money, the bank legally owns it. You are no longer the owner. The bank just has a promise, an IOU, to give you back an equivalent amount when you ask for it. This is so important. You've just shifted from being an owner to being a creditor. The bank owes you a debt, but that cash, it's not your cash anymore.
I know what you're thinking. Okay, fine. It's a legal detail, a technicality. As long as I can get my money from the ATM, who cares? Right? Well, you should care. Because this little detail becomes absolutely critical when a bank starts to fail. And that's where we need to talk about something called a bail-in.
So how did we get here? Well, that old legal principle from way back in 1942, that was the foundation. Fast forward to the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis. All the big countries got together and said, we need new rules for when banks go bust. The result? These bail-in laws, which popped up everywhere around 2015, and they are built directly on top of that one idea. The bank owns your deposits.
So what does a bail-in actually mean for you and your money? It means that if your bank is about to collapse, the government can step in and use your money, the creditor's money, to save the bank. Remember, you're a creditor. So any cash you have over the insured limit, which is 100,000 euros in this example, is fair game. I'm going to be blunt here. Your savings can literally be seized. They can be turned into useless bank stock or just wiped off the books completely to pay for the bank's mistakes.
So let's circle back. Remember that definition of security? Free from danger or risk? Now that you know you're just a creditor and your money could be used in a bail-in, does it still feel quite so risk-free?
And you know what? This idea of trading away direct control for a promise of security, it isn't just about bank accounts. This pattern is everywhere in finance. Let's take a look at another super common example.
Yeah, I'm talking about investment funds. You give your savings to a professional. They go and invest it. And hey, it's totally normal. It's regulated. But the core principle is exactly the same. Your money is no longer in your direct control. You own shares of the fund. Sure, but you don't own the actual stocks or bonds inside it. It's a subtle but really important difference.
This all brings to mind a really powerful quote. It's often credited to Martin Luther King Jr. You may not be responsible for the situation you are in, but you will become so if you do nothing to change it.
Look, you and I didn't create this financial system, but once we understand how it really works, we have a responsibility to act on that knowledge. It's not just trivia, it's about making a real choice.
Okay, so if the standard way of doing things means giving up control for a promise, what's the alternative? Well, it's actually about going back to a much simpler, older idea, finding real security through direct, unquestionable ownership.
It really comes down to two different ways of thinking about security. On one hand, you've got security through trust. That's where you hand your assets to someone else, like a bank, and you become a creditor. On the other hand, you have security through control. That's where you keep direct, exclusive possession of your stuff. In that world, you are the one and only owner.
So, what does this direct ownership look like in the real world? Well, let's start with a classic, physical gold. We're talking about an asset that's been around for thousands of years. You can hold it in your hand, its ownership is backed by law, and whether you keep it at home or in a professional vault, it is your property, no one else's.
Another great example, and one we're all familiar with, is real estate. When you buy a house, there's a whole legal process, right? You get a formal deed, it's recorded in a public registry. The entire system is built for one purpose: to prove without a shadow of a doubt that you are the exclusive owner. It's a fantastic example of legally protected, direct ownership.
And finally, there's a modern technological alternative: Bitcoin. This thing was literally designed from the ground up to get rid of the middleman. There are no banks, no third parties required. It's a global peer-to-peer network that runs 24/7, and your control over your assets isn't based on a legal promise. It's enforced by pure mathematics and cryptography. It's a tool for this new age of digital sovereign ownership.
And you can see why people are talking about this so much. I mean, just look at this chart comparing Bitcoin's performance over the years to other assets. Now, hold on. This isn't about telling you to chase returns. The real point here is that this kind of performance is what made huge players like BlackRock sit up and pay attention. They're not just looking at it as some weird internet money anymore. They see it as a serious technological innovation in the very idea of property.
Which brings us right back to the beginning, but with a whole new perspective. We started this journey assuming we owned the money in our bank account. Now we know that legally we don't. We've seen the risks like bail-ins, and we've looked at alternatives built on the idea of direct control. So, I'll leave you with this one last question. Now that you know the truth, is handing over control of your capital still the right choice for you? Thanks for joining The Explainer.